Hello YouTube. I'm recording this demo on Wednesday, April 24th in the afternoon. I'm recording this demo for a sales training on Thursday in Seattle. And what I'm actually recording this demo is about using the AS3 API. But it's actually kind of interesting because I'm actually going to go ahead and show the differences between using the API on BIG-IP Classic versus using the AS3 API on BIG-IP Next Central Manager. And so I want to go and talk a little bit about some of the differences, but ultimately I'm going to send the same configuration. Now, the software that I'm using is the latest BIG-IP Next downloadable software from the F5 downloads. And I'm using a trial key which you can go and use yourself. So everything that I'm showing you today is fully downloadable. And what I will do is I will also upload this Postman collection so that you can actually try this yourself. And I think after this demo, what I will also do is I'll talk a little bit about how I created this environment. And I actually created this environment simply just everything through the UI. I didn't use any orchestration at this point, and or any automation scripts or anything like that. I just used the setup standard with the tools, and I will record that probably on Friday, kind of what I did, so I can give you guys a kind of quick start, so that you can kind of get started with your journey, potentially from maybe moving some apps over, or at least trying some of the new cool stuff coming out of the BIG-IP Next group. So what I have here is a Postman collection. Pretty simply, it's a Postman collection that I've kind of been put together with a bunch of things from Classic to Next, kind of using different APIs and stuff. But here I'm going to solely focus on the AS3 based API, what I call on Next the AS3 compatibility API. So if you are an AS3 user today that is using AS3 Classic, this is the video for you. And there's lots of different discussions about configuring apps. I'm not going to get into that. I'm simply going to focus on the compatibility API that if you use today, you can use on BIG-IP Next. So the first thing I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and take a look at the systems itself. So this is the Central Manager dashboard. It is the My Application Services. So as you can see, there's no applications here, and I can go ahead and pull this API just like you would pull the AS3 API to actually get the apps. I'll do that in a second. And as you can see, my classic BIG-IP here, there are no apps, there are no stacks, there are no tenants. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and let's create some apps or create an app, and then we can go ahead and manipulate. Now I'm going to start very simple, and we can get more advanced, but I'm going to leave that for a different video. What I want to do today is just send something pretty vanilla through the system just to kind of show you the difference, because this is the first video that I am creating on BIG-IP Classic versus BIG-IP Next, kind of the differences. But what you will notice quite significantly, I think, just right off the start, you'll actually notice something quite interesting, which is kind of what I want to call out, which I actually kind of like. So let's go ahead and take a look at a first application. So this is BIG-IP Classic. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull the API, and so I'm using AS3 version 50. Which has per app API, but I'm not going to go ahead and just use the per app API. In this instance, I'm actually just going to go ahead and send a declaration. So we'll go ahead and, like I said, get the configuration on the system. You will see what's coming back here is there's no configuration here. So what I want to do is, like I said, just deploy something very trivial, very simple. It's 31 lines. It includes a configuration of a tenant called tenant1. It includes a configuration of my app, the virtual, and of course my pool, right? So it's very simple. It's simple to something like an HTTP IAP or an HTTP configuration, right? So if you wanted to configure a BIG-IP with an HTTP config, you can use this template, you can templatize this. And that's the great thing about Next, that it really has these templates built in. You don't have to actually go ahead and load. Everything's actually already there. So by setting up AS3, I had to actually first install the AS3 component, and I had to increase the memory, and I had to kind of prep the system. Where with Central Manager, I didn't have to worry about any of that. It was kind of all ready for me to actually start to consume. So what I want to go do is I just want to go ahead and post this. So we're going to go and post this configuration to the classic BIG-IP. As you can see, it's going to post. It'll take about 15 seconds working on this API. And should come back in a second here, and then we can go ahead and take a look. So you can see right there, around about 13 seconds to post this. Got the 200 OK. So I can actually go and take a look at the tenant, and I can see there is my application 1 with the pool members. So as you can see right here, coming up, app with pool member associated with my 2 pool members. Pretty simple. Everyone's pretty familiar with this. It's kind of what you've been using for a while, configured through AS3. Great. Now what I want to do, I want to take that same configuration, but apply it to BIG-IP Next. But I'm not going to change the simple thing. I'm just going to go in and use the same config that I posted to the classic. So what I'm going to post to Central Manager. So everything is through Central Manager to the instance. I'll show you what it looks like. First thing I got to do is take a look in here. You'll see if I go to my infrastructure and go to my instance will come up. So I'll talk a little bit about creating a new instance as a standalone. I'm not going to get into all the other aspects of it, someone else's role, but what I want to do is we can talk a little bit about this is the BIG-IP instance itself. So we've got a BIG-IP 1 here, F5 demo. That's the instance itself. That's actually the instance that's been consumed or added to Central Manager. I will create a video on this later this week on how to add this and actually how easy it is to set this up. But I'm going to focus on apps at this point. So the first thing I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and get a token. So I'm going to go ahead and request my token. I request my token right there. Then I can actually go ahead and get a summary here. And I just want to get a summary of the apps. You can see that I actually have a device. So I have one device associated. Or if you want, I can actually go ahead and actually get the instance. So I'm actually going to pull the instances. And once I actually have the instance, I can actually go ahead now and actually use that instance. And as you can see, that is my instance name. That's my host name. OCP BIG-IP1 F5 demo. This is the instance that I want to use. Because when you use the compatibility API on Central Manager, you have to declare the instance that you're communicating through, because it's through Central Manager to the instance itself. And so that's ultimately what I'm going to show today. That's the piece that I want to highlight. And so we can go ahead and get the configuration like I did. Now you can see this is actually the instance. So this is the inventory device ID. And you can actually see that's the instance right there, BIG-IP1 F5 demo. And going to deploy this to pull the instance. You will notice that the system is really fast. It's really nice. And so what I'm going to do right now is there's nothing on this system. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to deploy something. But I'm going to deploy exactly what I deployed in Classic. So it's exactly the same. Literally, it's a cut and paste. It's 2 different systems. Obviously, these are bogus addresses, but you can actually go ahead, and if you're using something similar, then you can go ahead and send kind of like what you're using. There will be some slight differences, right? Specifically referencing of common objects. I'll get to that later in an up and coming demo. But what I really want to do for this first demo is, because this is the first one, is kind of just give you a little bit of a highlight, kind of showing the differences. And so as you can see right here, it's exactly the same config. I'm going to post this and I'm going to declare this to the system, to the App Services API. I'm going to declare it, and it's of target address to the system that is associated that I want to send this to. So I'm going to go ahead and post it. And you can actually see that this thing actually took almost 2 seconds to post. So kind of what's coming back, you can actually see here the declaration to tenant app 1. You can kind of see how it kind of wrote it out. So what it did was it actually took the AS3 declaration, translated it onto the next environment, configured the next environment. You can actually see here pool member service. And then within your services, you've got the virtual address class, the tenant, etc. Now, if we go to the dashboard and I refresh the dashboard, you'll actually see the configuration on the actual dashboard show up here. So we've got a healthy configuration, we've got no alerts, we can see that this is deployed to instance 1. There's no global resiliency at this point, and so I can actually go in here and actually take a look at what this looks like. So this dashboard is actually really nice. So client, obviously, to the service, to the pool, to the member. You can see the 2 pool members that are applied in this configuration as of right here. So you can actually view these potentially, and this is the instance itself. It kind of shows that this is on this instance. These are actually a couple pool members that you can see as well. So let's go ahead and exit here, and you can kind of see that this is my configuration. I actually quite like this because you can see here right away kind of like what it's looking at. You can also do a few things here. I don't want to get into that in too much detail with regards to kind of what you do here, but now I have this application on BIG-IP, and so the whole concept of source of truth comes in here again, right? I actually, in this instance, deployed my AS3 using Postman, and so you kind of have to decide what is your role. Do you manipulate the application through your central manager dashboard? Do you make changes here? Or do you actually go ahead and continue to use the AS3 API? That's really up to you. Depends upon your organization and kind of your source of truth. For Classic, source of truth was the AS3 declaration itself, some kind of pipeline, or your orchestration tool. Depends on what you want to do here with Central Manager. There's a lot of advantages potentially with using Central Manager itself. Maybe as an orchestrator, it's really up to you. But that's ultimately kind of what I wanted to show with regards to the configuration right here. And if you wanted to manipulate this, you potentially could, etc. So that is this first demo. If we actually go back to the API, we can actually go ahead, and if we wanted to get this configuration, we could simply just go ahead and token expired. Let me go ahead and get my new token, and then we'll go ahead and get this configuration. Get the configuration right there. You can see tenant 1. Within tenant 1, you can see there is app 1. And now you can actually go ahead and just use AS3 like you would, specifies the target. So that is the first demo. Real quick, real simple. Kind of talked a little bit about the differences between the two, between the classic system right here. I'm pulling the classic system right here. And between you can see right here, here's the classic configuration. Let me just open this up and close that right there. There's the classic system right there. 35 lines. Here is the BIG-IP Next Central Manager environment. 34 lines. You can kind of see the two there. What I'll do is I will upload this Postman collection with this video, so that if you wanted to go ahead and do this, you could use my Postman collection. Pretty simple, really nothing to it. So hope that you find this demo useful. Please let me know what else you want to see. I got a couple other demos coming. And if you like this content, please give it a like. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate the community. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much.